All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right. Apologies for the sound in the last one. Entirely operator error. So we'll try to make sure these are better. Now you want to start off with a question. Yeah.
So it's the new year, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever find, or have you in the past or currently, do you do something like new for the new year? People call it New Year's resolutions. Do you try to do anything starting off your year or no?
No. If there's a change I need to make in my life,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to wait till a specific date to start it. I'm going to implement it
When you feel you need to.
Yeah, when I need to. So, for example, cutting back on nicotine.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, start weaning off now. I'm not going to wait 3 months to start doing that. It's the same reason why I don't like diets.
Oh yeah.
Because diet says this is how I live my life, and a diet is a period of time where I'm going to change that. But in our minds, the diet is a temporary thing.
Right.
I think it'd be far more beneficial to say, what is something that is going to be a must for me, such as I am not going to drink soda. It's like, well, that little decision of not drinking soda is going to be far better over the long term of your life than a 3 to 6 month diet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. No. So I firmly believe in like realistic changes that you can implement and follow, not
like timely. Okay, now I'm going to start doing the thing for like a duration.
I think New Year's resolutions tend to be unrealistic.
Yeah.
I think they tend to be good things to aspire to do, but they're too much. They're not realistic. I think people get excited and they're like, I'm going to make this huge change. And they actually haven't thought about what is going to have to go into, like how much work is going to have to be put in to make that happen. And then once the excitement has worn off, they're not ready. They're not prepared to deal with the pain.
Right. It's a lack of discipline that kicks in afterwards.
Yep.
And I really think what that stems from is that people often decide to make like goals with a end outcome that they want rather than a goal focused on like changing what you do. It's kind of what you just said. It's the idea of I'm going to do this diet for a certain chunk of time, or I'm going to make this actual change. I'm going to do this thing that's going to permeate for a long period of time.
Yeah.
To me, what that breaks down to is a choice of disciplines, because once the interesting part of that wears off, what are you left with? Well, either you want it or you don't want it. And if you don't want it, well, then you're not going to put the discipline in to do whatever it is that you thought you wanted to do.
Yep.
So it's the act of being disciplined to step into that space.
Yep.
And New Year's or not, doesn't really matter. It's just stepping in. Do you say, am I going to be disciplined about this thing? Or am I just looking for this end goal, but I'm not really willing to put the effort into that long term?
It ties into the point you make in the last video. Hold on 1 second. That's going to kill me. It ties into the point you made in the last video of when you get into a serious relationship, are you abiding by the commitment, or are you in it because of the love? Because once the love wears down, you need something more meaningful, something deeper.
Right. Yeah, that's a solid point. I mean, I guess you could extrapolate that on all the things we do. Is it emotional based or is it active decision? Right? So is it based on what something feels like in the time, place, and being? Or is it actually, I choose to do this? Again, goes to that whole making the choice every day. And outside of just relationships, anything that you do, you could choose to do it or not do it, right? Like it's always a choice. You may say you want to stop eating gluten or whatever your choice is, but then you get to some restaurant and it's like, wow, they only have this, so I guess I don't care that much. And it's like, all right, the excitement's worn off. You're maybe lazy enough to just not care, and it doesn't really matter. And you've already talked yourself down out of the commitment that you made. So, yeah, to me, that's a sense of discipline, regardless.
Yep. It's like wants are very nice. but a must will last.
Yeah.
So you can want everything you want and you're riding on your emotion, but unless you decide this is mandatory, this is my new standard, I've raised my standard, and to not do this thing would fall below my standard, I will not accept that, then it becomes a must.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's actually, I like this. Good question here. What can you do to actively step into the must? How do you make that commitment? How do you change it from just like, oh, I'm excited about this, to switching it to, I'm going to do this regardless? And I think this is a person-to-person thing because I think we're all different. So I guess my question is, what would make you commit to doing whatever that thing is?
Well, we pursue pleasure and avoid pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is that pull or the push strong enough to make me realize that it's kind of mandatory? So I would need like one of those things, or I would need to either truly be in a place in my life where I was asking the question, like, is this it? Like, what can I do differently? And then actually like sitting down, analyzing each aspect of my life and realizing like, okay, if I stop doing that thing, if I keep doing what I'm doing right now, in 1 year's time, 5, 10, it'll be this way. And in a lot of ways, it'll get worse because I'm not doing enough investing in myself, investing in life, and general maintenance to keep up with the bad habits. So if I went that route, it could be a matter of like, okay, now that I actually think about it, there was no massive pull or push that got me thinking about it. But then once I view it and realize like, oh, this is a very bad thing, or wow, how differently my life would be if I did that thing, then that pull or push now comes into my conscious frame. And so like once you get one of those things where you're like those realizations and you're like, this would be a worthwhile endeavor, then figuring out what you would realistically be willing to do to achieve it. So many people want to be multi-millionaires.
Sure.
And they're like, I want this. And I think most people in the world could be. However, I think most of us aren't willing to do the work. Take a beautiful body. You look at a guy, C-Bum.
Sure.
You look at C-Bum and you're like, wow. You know, if he were to come up to me, if a genie would come up to me and be like, you can have C-Bum's body right now, like, you and I both would be like, snap those fingers, genie.
10 out of 10, let's go.
And we could,
right,
to the best of our genetic ability, get really close to that. But I personally am not willing to spend 3 to 4 hours in the gym every day. I'm not willing to make bodybuilding my life.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, you could have this thing, but realistically, I'm not willing to do the work. So I think that's a huge component of it that is often overlooked is realistically, what are you willing to do? Yeah,
I think that's accurate. And I think one of the downsides of what we do, or what tends to take place with people, is that, you know, you have the idea that you think you want, but the failure that takes place is we don't adequately understand all of what it will take often. Like, we'll look at the idea and think, oh yeah, it'll be like a little tough. I'll do this or I'll do that. I'll have to put this much effort. I'll have to put that in. And I wouldn't use like a perfect bodybuilder or a millionaire as the example because we kind of know those take significant effort.
Okay.
So let's scale it back to, I want to lose 20 pounds or I want to, something reasonable.
That an average person would make as a New Year's resolution.
Yes. Yeah, we'll take that. We'll run with that.
Okay.
So I think one of the downsides and what causes people to fail most often is like we may put like a small bit of thought into what it's going to take. And you'll get a mapped idea of, oh, I got to be a little disciplined about this and that. What I think would be useful, and I'm thinking of, you know, Jordan Peterson's personality. No, it's not personality. It's the self-authoring.
Yes.
Where you got to map out like what's the worst version of me and where do I end up with that, and then what's the best version of me and see that disparity. It's kind of like you need to take a goal and do that with it. Okay, what's the worst this is going to take? Like how crappy is this going to be at its possible worst bottom end? Boom. Okay, I'm going to have to do this, and if I run into a scenario where I don't have any options but fail the thing that I'm aiming at, or be incredibly disciplined and deal with the suck, what does that look like? Am I willing to do that? See, now if we map out those ideas and actually understand what those things are going to take, it's much more likely that when we're faced with that difficulty, that challenge that would tend to fail, we've understood it. We've mapped it out in our head. We get what that picture is. So when we face it, it's like, oh, I knew this was coming. I knew this was going to be a thing. That's okay. I can handle this. I understand it. At least, I don't know that I've ever actually done that, like per se, but I think that might be really useful.
Yeah, so basically it could be summed up as the decision needs to follow the understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to understand what it will take
before you make the decision.
Correct.
You know, and the more often that you make a decision without understanding and fail, the more likely you're not going to attempt things because you just subconsciously know that you're going to fail.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you only set yourself up, you know, you mapped it out to the best of your ability, to the best of your wisdom and knowledge, and then made decisions that were realistic that you could accomplish, and you decided like, okay, I want this bad enough, then that, on the flip side, reinforces the belief in yourself that, okay, if I do this and I know exactly what it's going to take, and I know that I commit to it, I know that I can achieve it. And then that completely flips the framework of your life.
And that'll compound on itself and kind of just feed into like your success, your ability to continue being successful. So if you map it out right, you understand what it takes, you step into that difficult spot and you overcome it. That's like a positive feedback loop that tells you you can.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that takes you from where you are to your next goal, but it also allows you to propel into something else that you want as well. So it's like that positive feedback loop that continues creating success in your life.
Yeah. It's, you know, confident people seem to just be able to do more. Like you and I, we've both been there. Like when we're confident, it's like doors just open, you know, but when we're unconfident, it's like, man, life is so hard right now.
Yeah.
And it's just that, you know, you're in that mindset. You see it within yourself. Other people see it. And it's like, I'm on a roll, baby. I'm going, you know? And then once you get out of that, you know, it's like, it's so crazy because when you're just feeling good about yourself and confident, you're accomplishing, at least me, I'm probably accomplishing like 4 to 5 to 6, maybe even 7, 8 times as much as I am when I'm not confident. You know, and these are like, let's say big droughts. Like,
sure.
You know.
Yeah, the lower you go, the easier it is to become successful. You ever thought about that? So the shittier things are for you. Like, let's take 2 years ago, you and I going through breakups of our own, right?
Okay.
You take that time, your grandfather passed away, just like things are not great. What can you do from that? When you get to your lowest point, like, yeah, you can keep going lower. That'll happen. But as you make trajectory upward, that will compound. Plus you have the disparity of, I felt this crappy and now I've made some good decisions and now I feel better and better and things are working better and better. Whereas if you take where we are now, relatively fine, everything is even keel. There's no like huge issues that we have facing. Like obviously there's some, but nothing that's devastating right now. So we're in a middle state. So if we create success, okay, we're being successful. But that disparity of where we were previously down here, you feel this much better. Now we feel like this much better. It's a little bit more difficult to create that level of success. You know what I mean?
Yep. There's, you know, the human spirit is like water. Usually takes the easiest path available. You know, you'll never see water running uphill.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No,
like,
it doesn't do
and
that.
that's very common in, as far as I can tell, very common in ourselves. Humans, like that's our natural state. It's like, you know, and if it's not bad, why would you change it? It's not
right.
And that's where I think we're more motivated by the push of pain than the pull of pleasure. You know, I think comfort oftentimes the serotonin will beat the dopamine most of the time.
Agreed.
The serotonin will beat the dopamine. And it's kind of interesting, like, this isn't really on the lines of the point, but think of something. Yeah. When you get down that low, you realize, like, whether it be no fault of my own or fault of my own, I'm down here. Mm-hmm. And this sucks because this isn't my baseline. I know what baseline is.
Yes.
And this is so much worse. I cannot be here, right?
Yes.
So you move up. And then if you do it correctly, once you even get to baseline, you don't really, the nice thing about it is that once you get to baseline, you're like, I'm on such a roll. Why would I stop here? Mm-hmm. So it kind of rubber bands you past the point.
That's true. But now as I'm thinking about this, I remember listening to a podcast, some dude talking about leadership. And this might be more specific to businesses, but maybe this applies to us as well. But his definition was, the thing that will kill your success is success. So it was, as you become successful, you allow yourself to get essentially more lazy. So while what we're saying is correct, I think it applies to when we're below baseline. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but when we're below baseline, we will do all the things that we need to get at minimum to baseline. But most of the time we're on like a momentum. So we'll pick up and exceed that and it'll be wonderful. Yeah. But when you're up here, it is super hard to stay up here. Like, you're going to go to baseline. You're going to go right back down. So success in and of itself is oftentimes the thing that will take you out of success because you're happy here. Everything is good. Life is what you want it to be. And then you become, for lack of a better term, lazy.
Complacent.
Complacent is a great word. Yeah. It's the lack of discipline to maintain where you are or exceed it because you've already achieved what you're looking for. And this kind of goes to the first point as well. If you're not mapping out that full trajectory of things, then, so if you understand the hard part at the bottom, great. But when you get to the top, what do you do with that? You just stop? What do you do?
It's kind of interesting. You'll see a lot of people get like really, really depressed once. Like, for example, Led Zeppelin, when they hit their zenith.
Yeah.
Basically. I was watching, who was it? Might have been Jimmy Page. I was watching this documentary years ago and he was talking about how once they hit that point, they were in the middle of their band's career. They had just they did something where they'd basically become like the number one band in the world or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. But basically the way he was wording it was that they maxed out and they were, just like, you're the greatest band in the world.
Yes. Where do you go from there?
And he was saying that all of them went into a massive depression because they realized, like, we got here. Is this it? And they went to a massive depression. But then they kind of realized, like, no, we can do more. Mm-hmm. So it's like once you hit
what you're aiming at.
What you hit your aiming at, take time and enjoy that plateau. Mm-hmm. Don't fly through it. Like, reward yourself. Yep. It's like, yes, I got here. Last night doing muscle ups.
Yeah.
I've never been able to do a muscle up for about the last 5 to 6 years. I've wanted to. Tried it about 4.5, 5 years ago. Completely failed. Mm-hmm. Have not attempted another one. And then last night, training back, I'm stretching out my back before my workout even starts. I'm stretching out my back and I was like, I feel good. Boom. Pound out two in a row. Never have done it before. Clean too. No knees coming up, like they were clean. I got so excited. I called someone very important to me. I was like, you're not going to believe this, And then I got off the phone with them and then I was like, I'm doing that again. Boom. Pounded out 4 more in a row. Mm-hmm. Literally went from 0 to, and on the first attempt I could have done a third. So basically 0 to 7 and 2 sets, right? Mm-hmm. Now, how do we?
Yeah, it was the take time to celebrate what you've done.
Correct. Yep. Correct. So that's awesome. I understand that that's kind of impressive, but like in the higher echelons of achievement.
It means nothing.
Yeah. In gymnastic, it's not scored. Like it's a 0-point maneuver.
You do this to do other things.
It's like, well, you need to do that to get onto the rings. Like, well, I'm not going to give you a point for that, you know? So it's like last night I was pumped.
Yeah.
I was pumped. You know, I felt so good. And I was okay with that. I allowed myself to be in that moment. I allowed myself that excitement, but then immediately it was like, okay, you enjoyed it. You know, you let a nice little scream of satisfaction, but there's a lot more that can be done. So instead of becoming complacent and sitting there, or becoming depressed because you don't think you're going to hire, it's like, no, realize that there's more to do.
Yes.
It's the hill and you've still got to rock.
Yes.
You know, take a breather. You get to a nice vantage point and there's a little ledge. Push the rock onto the ledge so you don't have to put the pressure. And then sit down, take a breather, enjoy the sunset, you know?
Yep.
But guess what?
You're still going to have to get up and keep pushing.
You can't sit on the ledge. There's no food and water on that ledge. You have to get up to the oasis on top.
Yes.
So enjoy it, take a breather, but at some point in time, you're going to have to start pushing that rock again.
Correct. The interesting aspect of that is I do love that analogy. But one caveat I'll give is that, yes, we're aiming at the theoretical oasis on top, but understand it doesn't exist. So that's the challenge, and I think that's where people fail, and that's where we all fail. As we feel as though we're going to get to a point where we can stop. That's wrong.
Yeah.
Because there is no point where you can stop. The function of dopamine being just motivation. It's not I get to a point and then all the happiness hits me. It's no.
Yep.
The journey of the motivation is the aspect that's good.
Like once you hit that plateau, the serotonin will hit in.
Yeah.
But the serotonin does not feel the way the dopamine does. You know, and so you can just sit there in a state of serotonin for the rest of your life.
But it'll dissipate over time.
Potentially, maybe.
Once you become complacent and used to the state that you're at, it's not the same level as once you initially got there.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay, that would make sense. I can subscribe to that.
Like and subscribe. This is not where I thought this conversation was going to go.
No, I had no idea where this conversation was going to go.
Me either.
Because, you said you wanted to ask me a question on the lighter side. Yep. I had no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What else you got?
What do I got? I don't know, man. I guess the reason I started this conversation was because one of the things that I'm doing, and I don't chalk this up as a New Year's resolution. I just chalk it up as it's a start date and I enjoy it. I'm treating this year as 12 months of discipline. So what I mean by that is every single month, I pick one thing to be very disciplined about. Not because I expect to perpetuate it or turn it into a lifestyle. I just actively choose this month, I will be intentionally disciplined about one thing, whether it's cutting something out, intentionally doing something. Like, for example, this month, what I'm doing is every day I have to play guitar for a minimum 30 minutes. It just has to happen. There's no excuses. I got home really late one night. It was 11:30 and I had to work in the morning and I'm too freaking bad. I gotta sit down and play. It's not an option. Just have to do it. So
it's like a personalized version of Benjamin Franklin's 13 values.
Oh yeah, what are those?
13 virtues.
I knew those in the past, but I don't recall what they were.
I can't name them off. I can name a couple off the top of my head.
Sure.
You know.
But yeah, it's that same concept. Really to me, it is just the concept of being disciplined about something for the intentionality of being disciplined. It's like
training yourself to be disciplined.
Yes. It's like flexing that muscle of I'm relatively not that disciplined of a person. So to me, it's all right, let's get uncomfortable for a bit. Let's do something that I don't like doing. Not that I don't like. All these things would be things I would want to do.
No.
But I wouldn't put the effort in to do them.
Yeah. Unless you made the conscious decision.
Correct.
To do so.
So now it's I don't care. There's no excuses. It just has to happen.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. I have a question for you.
Hit me. No, you physically punch me in the face.
Okay, you got it. You got it. I'm very disagree. Here, give me a second here.
Yeah.
So I can give you actual numbers.
Okay. Oh, the levels of disagreeable?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So to give you, I think this was the most extensive personality test I've done.
Sure.
By 3 or 4 reputable individuals who I trust.
Sure.
All working in the psychological fields. And I don't trust personality tests on Facebook.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Oh, you're this Disney character. I don't.
It's
I don't.
Like, who gives a crap? Yeah.
This one was something that you actually had to sit down, take some time, you had to pay money for. I think it's good enough.
Yep, I would agree.
Good enough. And I'm not sure how many participants have done it. I would estimate in the 30, 40,000 or more range.
That's probably a good guess.
Yeah, maybe more. I wouldn't think less, though.
No, I would agree.
Okay. When it comes to agreeableness, I'm in the 20th percentile, which means, when it comes to politeness, I'm in the 9th percentile. Okay. And then assertiveness, 85th percentile.
Yep.
So basically, my question is, how do you not be an overbearing ass to your girlfriend?
I hear you. So you're asking the right question, but to the wrong person, because I'm 14th percent in agreeableness and
good
politeness. I'm like 27th in politeness, but like my agreeability is like pretty low.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually do have an answer for this. So one thing that I don't know what this is, and I've always had this, and it's something I'm very grateful for. But one of the innate things that I do with most people, and I've just realized this in the last 2 years to put like a name to it, is almost everybody that I interact with, the first thing that I will do is if they're telling me if I'm realizing something negative about someone, whether they're telling me I'm seeing it, whatever, my first response is almost always to give them grace. So it is not to instantaneously make judgment. It's not to shame, belittle, any of that. It's literally to respond in the sense of they screwed up. There's negativity here. There's something that should not be here, and they deserve some level of judgment for this. I'm going to choose to withhold this judgment and just try to understand. There's probably a reason it happened. It may not even be a good reason, but I'm going to start off with the concept of I give you grace. It is undeserved. You do not need this from me, but I'm giving it to you anyways.
Okay. So
I guess that would be my suggestion. Start off when there's a confrontation. Start off to the best of your ability with grace. Go, okay, you have a different perspective. That's a little bit difficult for me, but I'm going to just take a fact that you're coming from someplace where that is your perspective. I don't think you deserve me to understand that because I think I'm right, but I step back. I give you grace on this. That'd be my take.
Okay. So, starting off in a place of patience, calmness, maturity, love, offering the unearned grace. And I don't mean that they haven't earned it in the past.
Right.
But you are not looking at it as though they need to earn it.
Correct.
The free grace.
Yes.
Given them.
Yes.
Okay.
It's something you got to train yourself to. It's not an inherent thing. Or at least I don't think.
Not for me.
Sure.
I get so... I just because I tend to think about things quite a bit. There's many times where I say things that are just foolish. But things I really, really care about, I tend to think them pretty through. And so when I speak about them, it's intentional. Pretty sure about them, you know? So when I hear things countering that, I'm just I've thought about this. I've weighed the pros and cons,
So that's where you step back, go, I may be right, but I give this space grace to not step in and have to be right.
Man, my temper and my patience, God, I gotta work on those so bad.
That's all right.
You want to keep going or you want to end it here?
I'm good.
All right, cool. Me too. All right, bro. Love you.
Love you too.